Ayo, what it do, YouTube? It's your boy Alvin Mike from L.T.A. and welcome back to the channel. Well, I also gotta say, welcome to the series. Welcome to This Week in the NBA, a series where we go about recapping everything that happened in the NBA this week, from insane individual performances to OT thrillers to records, upsets, and major storylines across the league. In this episode, we will be covering everything that happened within the NBA from the period of Sunday the 16th of November all the way up to Saturday night, aka the 22nd of November. Now, on Sunday, we saw the Golden State Warriors take down the New Orleans Pelicans 124-106 in a shocking manner, as Steph had an off night, only contributing about 9 points, while Jimmy Butler contributed 18. The win was driven by Moody managing to drop 32 points on 8 of 12 shooting from the three-point line, which proved too much for the Pelicans. While in the East, we managed to see the Celtics edge out the Los Angeles Clippers in a nail-biting 121-118 victory in favor of the Celtics, as despite Harden contributing 37 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists, the Celtics were carried by Jaylen Brown's 33 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 assists, which was also supported by Peyton Pritchard managing to have himself a 30-point night. Now, the game of the night, however, managed to be the Chicago Bulls going up against the Utah Jazz, as this was a double OT thriller where, despite Josh Giddey's masterful performance, contributing 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 13 assists with 2 steals and 2 blocks, the Jazz managed to outlast the Bulls 150-147 in double OT, led by Lauri Markkanen's 47 points and 7 rebounds, and most importantly of all, Keontae George managing to contribute 33 points and 6 assists, with his most important bucket coming in the form of a game-winning 3 with 0.8 seconds left on the clock. Moving on to Monday, we saw the Bulls playing on back-to-back nights, as just having suffered a loss at the hands of Keontae George in double OT the night before, they now found themselves matched up against the best player in the world and the Denver Nuggets. The Bulls managed to shock the Denver Nuggets in a 130-127 win in Denver, led by the Bulls bench, who all had positive plus-minuses and were led by Ayo Dosunmu's contribution of 21 points, as they managed to outlast the Nuggets, most specifically outlasting Nikola Jokic, who had himself another generational night, contributing 36 points, 18 rebounds, and 13 assists. What can this man really not do at this point? Another game worth mentioning was the matchup of the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New Orleans Pelicans. As with the Bulls, we saw the Pelicans playing on back-to-back nights. However, unlike the Bulls, they were not fortunate in winning in the back end of a back-to-back matchup, as the Pelicans suffered a 126-109 loss to the Thunder, spearheaded by Chet Holmgren's 26 points on 10 of 14 shooting and 9 rebounds. Unfortunately, this was not only a night of great performances, as we also saw Giannis leave the Bucks vs. Cavaliers game early due to what appeared to be, and has been since reported to be, a groin strain. Before leaving the game, Giannis managed to tally up 14 points in 13 minutes. However, this does feed into something that's currently being discussed within the league, as concerns are now rapidly growing about the increased level of soft tissue injuries in the league, with many suspecting it is due to the current scheduling and having players play as many as 4/5 games a week, which possibly contributes towards this. Moving on to Tuesday night in the association, we saw the Pistons win their 11th game in a row, managing to beat the Trae Young-less Atlanta Hawks 120-112, being led by their potential MVP guard, Cade Cunningham, who managed to have himself yet another night, contributing 25 points, 10 assists, and 6 rebounds with 2 steals. Jaylen Brown managed to rack up 29 points in the Boston Celtics 113-99 victory over the Brooklyn Nets. However, he was not the key performer, as Peyton Pritchard managed to provide 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. And despite the Nets having suffered yet another loss, it is worth mentioning the performance of Michael Porter Jr., who managed to contribute 25 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals. On Wednesday night, we saw the Warriors playing their 3rd game in 4 nights and their 2nd game in back-to-back nights. The Warriors sat out Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, most likely due to the excess load of such a heavy schedule and fear of possible injuries in their matchup against the Heat. As such, we saw the Heat charge to a 110-96 victory over the Warriors, led by Norman Powell's 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Post-game, we saw the Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr basically come out and call out the NBA scheduling for the increased spike of injuries, and it does make a lot of sense when you really do start to consider how frequently we're seeing players get injured this season in comparison to previous seasons. For the third night in 4 nights, we saw the Bulls suit up, and this time it was to go up against the young and upcoming Portland Trailblazers. The Bulls managed to find themselves in another nail-biting thriller led by the Bulls' big man Nikola Jokic, who had himself a night with 27 points and 8 rebounds. However, it is worth noting that the Blazers were playing the second game on back-to-back nights and did go into the fourth quarter down 16 points. However, despite the phenomenal contributions of Deni Avdija, who managed to get 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 14 assists, and Donovan Clingan with 17 points and 21 rebounds, the Blazers were edged out by a buzzer-beater three-pointer from the Bulls' big man Nikola Jokic, which obviously managed to kill the buzz with how they had managed to make such a great comeback in such a situation, losing 122 to 121. Thursday night was yet another episode of the Tyrese Maxey Show, a show that makes us wonder, when will the 76ers officially admit that Tyrese Maxey is the leader of the team and everyone else is just there to support him? Playing their second game on back-to-back nights after having just suffered a 121 to 112 loss to the Toronto Raptors on the previous night, the Sixers came out with a point to prove, and led by Tyrese Maxey, they proved that point. The 76ers managed to beat the Giannis-less Milwaukee Bucks 128 to 114, led by their lead guard Tyrese Maxey's 54 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. However, it is worth mentioning that on the side of the Bucks, we saw yet another masterful performance from Ryan Rollins, who contributed 32 points and 14 assists, showcasing that there may be more of a reason for Giannis to stay in Milwaukee than most people want to mention, because no one ever saw this kid performing the way he is. Now, Friday night was Cup night, and when I say Cup night, I mean Emirates NBA Cup. In a surprise turn of events and what appeared to be a revenge game from their earlier matchup in the week, we saw the Brooklyn Nets manage to outlast the Boston Celtics in a 113 to 105 victory, led by none other than Michael Porter Jr., who managed to contribute 33 points and 8 rebounds on an efficient 13 of 21 shooting from the field, 4 of 6 from the three-point line. This was also a special game for the Nets as Nicholas Claxton managed to tally up his first ever career triple-double, managing to record 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 12 assists for the first time in his career. It just seemed to appear as though the Celtics generally had nothing that they could do in order to stop the Nets, as at a point it seemed like the Nets couldn't miss. The Mavericks managed to notch a win in their belt, defeating the New Orleans Pelicans 118 to 115 behind Cooper Flag's 29.7 rebounds and 5 assists that night. We also saw that the Nuggets managed to beat the Rockets 112 to 109, led by none other than the best player in the world, with Nikola Jokic finishing with a near triple-double of 34 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists, paired up with 2 steals and 2 blocks. While in Phoenix, we managed to see the Suns edge out the Minnesota Timberwolves in a 114 to 113 victory, with the leading scorer of the game being, or at least on the Suns side, Dillon Brooks, and the bucket of the night coming in the form of a Colin Gillespie runner to take the lead and win the game. The Miami Heat managed to demolish the Chicago Bulls in a 143 to 107 victory, led by second-year big man Khalil Ware's 20 points and 14 rebounds. Josh Giddey, however, did manage to have himself yet another night with 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists. The final game of the night saw a matchup between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Golden State Warriors in the Group C bracket. The Blazers, led by the dynamic duo of Deni Avdija, who managed to get himself another night of 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 13 assists, and Donovan Clingan, who managed to contribute 22 points and 10 rebounds, managed to rout the Warriors in a 127 to 123 victory, putting a dull ending to a great shooting night from Stephen Curry, who managed to contribute 38 points, shooting 14 of 23 from the field, and 9 of 17 from the three-point line. Now on Saturday night, for the 5th time in the week, we saw the Chicago Bulls suiting up, this time to face the young Washington Wizards. Fortunately for the Bulls, despite the heavy usage required of the starters over the week, we saw yet another triple-double from Josh Giddey with 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists, which was just enough to help them outlast the Wizards in a 121 to 120 victory. The Detroit Pistons managed to pull off the unthinkable, managing to get their 12th win in a row in a 129 to 116 victory of the Milwaukee Bucks, led by none other than, of course, MVP candidate Cade Cunningham, who managed to have himself another night of 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. In the Western Conference, we saw the Kings manage to basically upset the Denver Nuggets, as again, despite Nikola Jokic putting up another massive performance with 44 points, 13 rebounds, and 7 assists, it just wasn't enough to get the Nuggets over the hump. The moment of the night, however, came from the Clippers versus Hornets game, as we managed to witness James Harden drop 27 points on 9 of 12 shooting from the field, 5 of 7 from 3, and 4 of 6 from the free throw line in the first quarter of the game. He managed to finish the game with 55 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists. However, unlike with Jokic, this masterful performance was enough to secure the victory for his team as the Clippers managed to beat the Hornets 131-116. Post-game, Chris Paul finally officially announced that he will be retiring at the end of the season. This wraps up an illustrious 21-year career, which despite having not won a ring, it still wraps up the career of a generational talent. Paul will finish up his career as a 12-time All-Star, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, having finished number 36 on the all-time scoring list, number 2 on the assist list, and number 2 on the steals list, ironically only trailing behind John Stockton in both assists and steals. Anyway, that wraps up this week on the NBA. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and it was as fun for you to watch and experience as it was for me to make. Comment down below your favorite moment and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I'll see you next week. Deuces.